were living along the road. In the night, you observe people carrying their loads, carrying their babies. Babies were, I don't know, it was a terrible sight. Throughout the day, throughout the night, people were walking down to nowhere.
Fellow Biafra.
If civil war comes, it will for us be the fight for freedom.
How did these massacres and the horrible things that happened affect you yourself and your closest family?
Oh, everybody here was affected. Practically everybody here had something that touched him.
Mm-hmm.
I lost a few relations.
You lost a brother, didn't you?
Yes, in the army in Ibadan, a young fellow. He was killed. I had to run away from Lagos because it was not safe. Soldiers went to where I worked to look for me. So I still gave the thing 2 weeks to make sure whether it was just a handful of people getting out of hand. But it wasn't. It seemed like a well-planned and coordinated program. So I fled like many other people.
In this episode, we talk about the displacement Biafrans faced during the Civil War, running from their homes to wherever they could find shelter. The first anti-Igbo pogrom occurred in Jos on June 22, 1945, and it lasted for 2 days. It was reportedly the first instance of demonstrated intertribal hostility in modern Nigerian history. At least 2 people died, but many were injured and property was looted and destroyed. Jos had a large Igbo population, most of whom were concentrated in a part of the city formerly known as the Native Town, but renamed the Igbo Quarter. Igbos also occupied jobs in all sectors of the economy, and the Northerners felt they could not find jobs for themselves because of this.
Well, the Igbos are more or less the type of people whose desire is mainly to dominate everybody. If they go to a village, to a town, they want to monopolize everything in that area. In 1952, when I came here, there weren't 10 Northerners in our civil service here. Then I tried to have it northernized, and now all important posts are being held by Northerners. In actual fact, what it is a Northerner first. If you can't get a Northerner, then we take an expatriate like yourself on contract. If we can't, then we can employ another Nigerian, but on contract too. This is going to be permanent, I should say, as far as I can foresee, because it will be rather dangerous to see the number of boys who are now turning from all our learning institutions, coming out with having no work to do.
Conflict kept brewing, and another riot broke out in Kano in 1953. This time, reportedly killing over 50 Igbos and injuring over 200. There was no formal inquiry into either pogrom by the British colonial administration. Another pogrom occurred on May 29, 1966, the most devastating of them all. It was said to be a joint effort between the local governments and bloodthirsty mobs.
The pogrom, the killing and massacre of the Igbos in the north, was in 1966. And as a result, Igbos were very much annoyed about what happened, because the trains brought down headless bodies. Many were massacred and thrown into the Makode River then. And the Igbos were very much annoyed of all the killings in northern Nigeria.
One of the direct reasons was anger at Ahmadu Bello's assassination in the so-called Igbo coup of January 1966. He was the Sardana of Sokoto and highly respected in the north. However, the match that set everything off was General Aguiyi Ironsi's unification decree on May 24th, in which he put an end to regionalism. Violence ensued again in the mostly Hausa-led counter-coup of July 1966 and peaked on September 29th, carrying into October. The Pogroms had an unofficial anthem, which was broadcast on radios and televisions in the north. The lyrics translate to, "Let's go kill the damned Igbo, kill off their men and boys, rape their women and daughters, cut off their property." It is estimated that between 3,000 and 30,000 Igbos were murdered.
We thought there could be negotiations so that there would be no war. But people were so infuriated, they were urging Ojukwu to declare war, to secede from northern Nigeria, and people were not happy.
Ojukwu, the military governor of the eastern region, declared the Republic of Biafra a few months later.
I just got married 6th May 1967, and Biafra was declared 30th May 1967. And my husband was in Calabar. At the time, the Igbos in Calabar decided that their wives and their children must go home from Calabar. So I came home. Many Igbos from Calabar came home with their children. The men stayed behind. The war had already started in the Nsukka axis. The Gekem, then down to Nsukka, down to Enugu. Enugu had already been sacked. And there was a lot of strong smoke down Onitsha. The story we had is that the house of Major Ifeajuna was being burnt. The father's house was burnt because they said he was a saboteur. And Benjo, another Colonel Banjo, a Yoruba, of course, those two were shot and killed. Awka town was sacked. Then Amod followed. Then Lofia followed. Then Enugu followed. The fact is that if you hear that this town has been sacked, the next town will move. Also, refugees are moving to nowhere. They were only walking along the road. Get it. Morning, day and night. So, for us, my husband was not there, but he left his car. And a relation of his is a driver. So I called him. I said, we have to start thinking of what to do because everybody is going. So one night, when the shelling became unbearable, I said, get everything. So he drove. The wife was in the car. The 3 children were in the same car, in the car. Myself and my baby, my sister, my 2 little boys living with me. The car was filled to the brim. I could only take my baby's dresses and the mattress. I had only 2 dresses. So we found a house in Alata, Bahrain. Stayed there. One day, this air raid came. The air raid was very terrific. It was stopping everywhere. People were running helter-skelter. I managed to take my baby right inside the banana groove, a group of bananas around. I just went in there, closed my eyes, and then, do you know, that day, people were using trucks after the air raid to pack human flesh, to dump. In fact, you wouldn't know who was killed or not, because their flesh was scattered in pieces. Then I told my husband that I won't stay inside the town again. We have to move, get to another bush. That was how we moved to Greek in Ikedu local government. That place had lush, tall trees. Houses were built down. Any plane flying will not know that there are houses under. So that was where we stayed till the end of the war.
We left London in January 9 and got to Lagos 29th of January 1967. By then, most of Easterners had almost left Lagos. When we arrived Lagos, we couldn't travel by road. The Takwa ship was the last sail to Nigeria then, and it was to take us to Port Harcourt. We were afraid to come out anywhere, but we braved it, went to see some of our friends in Lagos, and then let's sail to Port Harcourt. I arrived Port Harcourt, I think almost the end of January, because we spent 3 days in Lagos. From Port Harcourt, we traveled by road. By then, there was no problem in the eastern region. Traveled by road down to my hometown, Igbo. I spent a few weeks at home, and then came to Enugu, got an employment with the Ministry of Works. As a point as well, we were about to settle down. My family, when the war started, we thought it was a joke. And eventually, the Nigerian troops fired the first shot. I always remember that day. I was at the school to pick my 2 kids, Rosie and Tocho, from the school, from primary school. When we had the first shot from hilltop, and some were saying, no, never mind. Biafrans are testing their weapons, not knowing that the Nigerian troops were already in Enugu. That night, we had to pack our things. First thing in the morning, we left home. In fact, that should be the last time we came to Enugu. Until after 30 months, when the war ended. We abandoned most of our things which we came home from London. We went home, and from there, we had to be conscripted into one of the agencies that was responsible for providing for temporary accommodation for the refugees. So the war raged, and we stayed at Nokwa until the end of the war.
This is the building. This particular building, Kai building.
How many families were living in there?
2 families, the owner and we.